group of key stakeholders and folks who represented the nonprofit and service areas of the community to have a very quick update, let's all know what everyone else is doing kind of call. We call these our 755 calls. And these include someone who is representing all of the nonprofits who are providing food in the community, someone representing all those who are representing the homeless community, organizations that are providing financial assistance to community members. Crossman is on that call with Cobb Douglas Public Health. We have folks from Senior Services on that call. And I'm sure I've missed some, but you can tell it's a pretty powerful group of people. And what these folks are doing is in turn having conversations with people in their communities. And some of those are very structured, twice a week, once a week calls, whatever, but making sure the information is going out and that the information is coming back. And I can tell you the amount of collaboration that we are seeing between organizations is incredible. These organizations are learning where in the community is there not a place for people to go get food, where even though they live in a food desert, there's not a food drop-off or a food pickup site near them. Who has extra food that they can provide to an organization who no longer has food. Organizations that need use of cargo vans to deliver items, and then organizations who've said, hey, we can help with that. It is amazing, amazing to watch. One of the ways that we are really providing some leadership in the community too is we are making it clear where the services are and how you can help. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kat. Before I do that, one last thing. You all have heard and seen, I'm sure, in social media that we are going before the Board of Commissioners on Tuesday morning. And the reason for that is Mike Boyce actually reached out and asked if I would make a presentation to the Board of Commissioners on the need for food in the community. And so that's what's happening on Tuesday. And we'd love for you all to join in via video. And if you haven't already, let your commissioner know that you support this. We would appreciate it. But the whole idea is to make sure that the resources that are needed to keep our community fed are out there, because the nonprofits are seeing an unprecedented need, and there was no way to anticipate this. And in order to keep our community fed, we are going to need to have some additional help. So with that, I'd like to have Kat talk a little more about one of the ways in which we are trying to provide some leadership and catalyze some activity. So Kat, I turn it over to you.
Thank you, Sherry. Good afternoon, and thank you all for joining us. We've been working really hard to support nonprofits and those in need during this crisis. Our main focus has been to make sure the information that's contained in our central repository of services, also known as the Connection, I'm sure you've heard us talk about that quite often, is current and being used to communicate the services that are offered by the nonprofits to those that are looking for food pickup locations, utility and rental assistance, mental health counseling, child care locations for those on the front lines, and links to other resources inside and outside of Cobb County. I'd like to share a few ways that we've communicated these services to those in need. First, Barbara changed our voicemail message at the office to refer the callers to go to the Connection to find services needed in their areas. So if you've missed her voice, just call us at the office and you'll be her. We also printed 35,000, I hope this is in the picture, Connection cards. 100,000 of them were printed in Spanish, and these cards have been added to the food boxes that are being delivered through the school food programs, the church food drive-up pantries, and other food distribution sites. social media has also played a really important role for us in driving people to the connection. And we're using paid ad programs. And recently we've seen 350 plus clicks to the connection in less than a 6-day period. One of the neatest features is our map. We've been able to use the map to look at areas that aren't receiving services, and we found a hot spot that lacked food distribution. Because of that, we were able to partner with other nonprofits and open up 3 mobile food pantries in the areas where there were none at all. We continue to invest in our time and our resources to help those in need find what they need quickly and create funds to support our community. And on that, I pass it to Barbara.
Well, let me just interject here. And Kat, thank you so much. The amount of time that it takes to keep everything up to date on what organizations are doing where is significant. In fact, that's what Kat is focusing about 80% of her time on right now. But the truth of the matter is that's what our community needs. They need to know where they can find resources. And we really see that as part of our role as a community leader to make that important and to make that a priority. But we're also, in addition to being a grant maker, we're also a fund manager, a charitable fund manager. And so, Barbara, I'm going to toss it to you to talk about some of the new and interesting and exciting things that are going on in that arena.
Thank you, Sherry, and thank you all for being here. We so appreciate it. We know your time is valuable, and we appreciate you just taking a few moments out of your afternoon. So I want to start by saying how thankful I am to live and work in Cobb County. I already thought that, but after this time, it's become even more apparent. The responsiveness of the Cobb nonprofits, the support of our local government, and most significantly, the generosity of citizens and CCF donors. We cannot thank you all enough. I've seen this generosity in action in many different ways, and I'd like to share a few of those with you. First off, partnering with the Cobb Chamber of Commerce, Mitch Roden, who is president and CEO of Futron Hospitality and the Center for Family Resources, to establish a fund that we're calling Operation Meal Plan. This fund was created to feed those in our community who are food insecure while keeping restaurant workers employed during this COVID-19 crisis. By the end of this month, 22 local restaurants will have delivered approximately 11,000 meals to 30 local nonprofits. And of course, that's happened in dozens of deliveries. Although this is not our typical fund, we were able to react quickly to the COVID crisis and help address this pressing need for food. To keep delivering meals at the same rate, however, through mid-May, we will need another $20,000 in contributions if anyone out there is interested in making such a donation. Additionally, we have partnered with an existing fund holder of ours, Liberty Furniture Industries, as well as the Center for Family Resources, to launch our very first Employee Assistance Fund, or as we call them, EAFs. We are super excited about this initiative, and we are the very first community foundation in Georgia to offer EAFs. These funds allow businesses and other contributors the ability to set aside tax-deductible contributions for employees who are experiencing significant hardship resulting from extreme circumstances like, say, the COVID-19 pandemic. We have engaged the Center for Family Resources to accept, evaluate, and process employee requests for assistance. We know that you guys in the local business community, you're concerned for your employees and are looking for ways to support them during this difficult time. EAFs offer an easy, cost-effective way to do exactly that. And lastly, the most apparent way we've seen generosity in action, donors and fund holders just like you, and literally in some cases you. We have had so many calls from fund holders asking for guidance as to the most effective use of their giving funds, or people are asking, hey, I've got this stimulus check and I really don't need it, and I know there are others that do. What can I do with that? Others have received the CCF COVID updates, and you have been crazy responsive and generous. So thank you. If you have not already had an opportunity to do so and you've got a giving fund, this is the perfect time to consider making a grant. We would love to tell you about all of the charitable organizations making a huge impact during this crisis. If you're not sure who to give to, but you'd still really like to help, we have a Cobb COVID-19 Community Response Fund, and it's a great way to be more impactful. And Sherry's going to tell you a little bit more about that.
Great. Thank you so much, Barbara. And we have some folks who call just because they like to hear Barbara's voice. So if you miss it, do call, and she will. You will hear her lovely voice on the other end. So many of you may know that we and many local community foundations launched a COVID-19 Community Response Fund. We launched this probably a month ago now, and we are just under $200,000 in contributions. And the way folks are hearing about this is through the media, through social media, through our board, through all of you, because we've got folks reaching out and saying, what is it that we can do to be helpful? We've had several companies to call us and ask, how can we make an impact? And we talk with them about what we see going on in the community. We talk with them about the organizations that are helping in their particular areas of interest. But in the end, if they just aren't quite sure what to do, we've had some businesses, we've had some local fund holders, we've had other foundations just say, you know the community, you know what's best, here's the money, distribute it out. Our initial plan, I will tell you, was to basically get money out almost as soon as it came in. But we've slowed down, and let me tell you why. Because we are learning about all of the other grant making that's going on in the community. And for example, the Community Foundation for Greater Atlanta awarded $150,000 to Musk Ministries, as well as to CFR. They have also awarded money to Marietta Schools Foundation for certain things. And in many cases, we want to make contributions in addition to that. However, we also want to be careful that we are just making what we would call informed decisions, that when we are deciding where are the most needy places within the community and the organization serving those needs the greatest, we want to be sure that we are fully informed in terms of what other organizations are doing as well. And a perfect example of that is the funds that we're asking the Cobb County Board of Commissioners to consider allocating for food. It certainly doesn't make any sense for us to be distributing money for food if the Board of Commissioners is going to provide other funds to do that. So we've slowed down a little bit. We have already made 3 grants, which we are very excited about. The first was to the Cobb Schools Foundation. As of yet, they have not received any grant dollars from the United Way Fund, but we specifically asked that those dollars be used to provide technology to students who are in the South Cobb area. We know that that is a significant area of need. We all knew that anecdotally, but if there was ever any doubt, the study that we did of human needs in Cobb County last year certainly highlighted that. If that's of interest, by the way, that full study and heat maps, which show in color where the greatest areas of need are and for what purposes, is available on our website. Another organization was Center for Family Resources. We gave them $10,000 pretty early on in the process because we knew that people were already in need of financial assistance and beyond what government will provide for. And we wanted to seed their fund to get that going so they could provide financial assistance to individuals who needed help with rent, with food, with utilities, to make sure that that was covered. And then the last organization was Sur Familia. Sur Familia, you may know, is based in Ackworth, but they serve all of Metro Atlanta, and their focus is on the Latino community. And in particular, that community doesn't always feel comfortable accessing resources or have access to resources. And for that reason, we wanted to make sure that we were doing something to help in the Latino community. Sir Familia just does a phenomenal job, there are a couple things that are happening at the federal end to help individuals. The unemployment, they've expanded that program. And we've had some folks ask, well, why are you so focused on, helping folks who may be out of a job because they're going to be getting so much money in unemployment? For many of them, that hasn't started yet. And even when it does start, it still puts you barely above the poverty line, if even that. So we're very focused on making sure there are resources available through organizations that have a process for vetting and making sure that the dollars are needed, and then that those dollars go directly to what I would call the vendors, the leasing offices, the landlords, the mortgage companies, utility companies. So that is in place. If you are wondering what to do with that stimulus check that may have already come or is coming, the COVID-19 fund is a great place for that to go, and know that it will be put to good use. And by the way, we collect no fees on that fund. Any dollars that come in go right back out. Not immediately, as I told you, we want to make informed, impactful decisions, but there are no fees coming out of that whatsoever. So there's a lot going on. It seems like every day we have our day planned and then 3 or 4 things pop in the middle of it. But we are having tremendous opportunity to do what we're doing. The grant making area, we are so excited to be able to make grants and help organizations that are doing great work. And we would so encourage you, whatever you want to do to help, we are happy to help make that happen. Cheryl, do we have any questions from the crowd? Oh, you're on mute. There we go.
Hey, hello. So I know a few people have started to put some questions privately in the chat. Let me gather those. While I'm gathering those, Sherry, can you explain a little bit more about just some other of the grant making that you're working on, and other organizations that you're connecting with?
Sure. So as I mentioned, United Way, the person who represents the Northwest region for United Way is Nicole Lawson. And she and I together are discussing grant options. And in fact, we've got, I can't share it on the call, but I can tell you that we have some grant opportunity or grants that we're going to be announcing soon where Nicole is matching something that we have done. And so we're looking for opportunities to partner together to take those dollars and make them larger. I'm very happy to tell you that we've been spending a fair amount of time with Community Foundation for Greater Atlanta, as well as some of what I call the downtown foundations. And we did receive a grant of $30,000 from the Glenn Family Foundation. That is coming into the COVID-19 fund. And as I said, the whole purpose of that is for those dollars to go into the community and be deployed by the organization that's here on the ground in the community. We did also ask for a grant from the Community Foundation for Greater Atlanta. They've teamed up with United Way, and we should be hearing about that soon. But the bottom line is all those dollars are coming directly in to the COVID-19 fund and going right back out to the community organizations.
Okay, a question came in Sherry or Kat or Barbara, if you could answer this. Are you delivering any lunches to any of the Cobb Title I schools?
So Kat, do you want me to take that or you want to take it? She's doing this. Okay, so we are not, but let me tell you who is. So the lunches right now, keep in mind, we're still in school session. And so what has come into the USDA is the organization that provides the funding for meals within the schools. And what the schools are doing right now is they are delivering 1 week's worth of breakfasts and lunches to every single child in a car who comes up to the site where those meals are being distributed during the day. Fortunately, the USDA has opened that up and basically said that you don't have to confirm that they are in your school system. The only thing they have to confirm is that they're under the age of 18. And if there's however many children are in that car under the age of 18, the school system is able to provide for them 5 days worth of breakfasts and lunches. Now, when we get to summer, that's going to be different. And I can tell you MUST is already trying to figure out how they're going to do the summer lunch program that they do, simply because the legislation that was put forth last year to enable them to serve, to allow some of their volunteers to pack lunches like they used to, there was legislation pending that Kay Kirkpatrick had sponsored to push that through. The legislative session is not in right now, and so there is no decision on that. But there are other organizations that are helping with that. The YMCA is one. I can also tell you that there are a number of organizations in South Cobb that are making sure that students are being fed right now as well as on the weekend. The trick is first keeping track of it all, because as you can tell, there's a lot going on. But secondly, trying to the extent we can minimize the overlap and make sure that there aren't any gaps. And that's a challenge. And really, until all of this, no one was coordinating or looking at all of the food providers together to be able to discern, do we have overlap in certain areas and do we have gaps?
Excellent. Another question came in privately from a fund holder stating, I'm a fund holder. What are the top ways that I can help?
Oh, we love that question. So the first one is you can look at the connection and decide if there are any organizations providing services that are really tugging at your heart. It also specifically describes some of the immediate needs of organizations. But I would say you can also pick up the phone and call us and let's have a conversation, because we can certainly tell you where the greatest need is. I'll tell you right now, the greatest need is for food, and the greatest need is for food in the inner city of Marietta, north side of Smyrna, and the south side of the South Cobb. That said, we might be getting $1 million awarded on Tuesday. And if that's the case, I'd hate for you to put your dollars there. So what I'm going to tell you is, at this very moment, if there's a commitment that you would like to make, to be sure that it's going to go where it's needed at the right time, that's what the COVID-19 fund is for. That is one sure way to help. If you want to specifically help in a specific arena, call us and let us point you in the direction of the organization that really is serving a need that tugs at your heart.
Excellent. This question's for Barbara. Barbara, can you explain what an EAF is? Sounds like ABCD.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So in the case of Liberty, they have a lot of concerns. They have a few employees that, due to the economy, have unfortunately been laid off. That may continue, it may not continue. But even if an employee has not been laid off, maybe their husband has, maybe their spouse has. So they're going to have needs. Maybe they can't pay their rent, maybe they can't pay their utilities. So Liberty has set up this fund, and other employers are certainly welcome to do the same. We welcome that. So that these dollars are there. The employee would make their application with Center for Family Resources. They handle all the vetting, make sure that there is a need resulting from a catastrophic situation like COVID or a house fire, tornado, whatnot. And we make the grant to Center for Family Resources, and then they handle those payments to vendors. So the payment is not made directly to the employee. The payment would be made to the landlord, Cobb EMC, whatnot.
Okay, excellent.
I'm just going to interject there. One of the beauties of an employee assistance fund is that not only does the employer contribute, although the employer doesn't have to. Many times these are maintained in essence financially by the employees through payroll deduction. So just know that an employee assistance fund typically gets set up by the employer for the employees, but those who can contribute, that's unlimited. So just know that's an option that's out there. And we're so grateful for CFR to be able to manage this for us.
Excellent. Here's another question, either Kat and Sherry, maybe you could answer this. Question came in about the connection. What are the services that you can find on the connection, and how can we help direct people? I think the question was.
Kat, I'm going to let you take that. Okay, she's pointing. Yeah, you're unmuted now.
I'm unmuted. Yay! Right now, we have the connections set up on all categories to go straight to COVID-related issues. So the main ones are food pickup locations, utility rental assistance, mental health counseling, child care for those who are working on the front lines. And also we have a section of links to other organizations and their resources page. It's not totally limited to Cobb County either. We have added things for people outside of Cobb County that maybe they can find help in Metro Atlanta. The easiest way to go there is either through our main website, cobbfoundation.org. In the top right corner, there is a button to click, or you can reach it through cobbconnection.org.
Thank you.
Excellent. I've got a question.
Oh, I would like to mention one other thing. I'm sorry. If you know of services out there that are not listed on the connection, please get in touch with me so that I know, and I will get those posted immediately. Thank you.
Excellent. Great. Thank you so much, Kat. Sherry, can you explain a little bit more about the social media campaign that you've been asking others to share
Yes.
for the upcoming commission meeting?
Yes, I'm happy to. So we actually partnered with Must in the social media campaign. You guys may remember the Save Our Sandwiches campaign last year. Cable helped us come up with Help Us, Help Others. And the whole point of this is to educate the community on what the need is, and to, if they agree with this position, to please let their commissioner know that they agree with this position. And one of the things we found is that social media can be very, very powerful, but it also sometimes isn't working when you think it is. So for example, I can tell you there are times when Cobb Community Foundation is posted on Facebook and I can't find it anywhere as a user of Facebook. And that's because Facebook really wants you to buy an ad. But one of the ways that you can help us is to take the information and share it with your community on social media. That would include LinkedIn, that would include Instagram and Twitter. Really, it will go further if you actually create your own post as opposed to sharing it. And all the information is there for you to do that. But again, the whole purpose is educating the community about what the need is, and then secondly, encouraging you to be vocal to help push that through.
Excellent. Great. There was this very specific question on the Employee Assistance Fund. Is there a minimum amount to fund, like number of employees, dollar amount? Can you give a little more specifics?
Barbie, you want me to take that or you want it?
No, it's just over 10,000. I can't remember the exact amount though.
It is, it's 10,000.
Okay.
Not employees, minimum dollar
Okay.
fund it with. In terms of the employees, the IRS doesn't specify an exact number of employees that meet the minimum. It just has to be what is considered a charitable class, meaning that it has to be a large enough group of people that somebody can't clearly be setting up a charitable fund strictly to help one or two people. It has to be broadly available. And the other thing that I would say is, and this is the IRS rule, but one of the reasons that we love the role that CFR is playing with this is that the employer or the primary contributors cannot have any say. Well, let me replace that. They can have a say, but it has to be purely objective. And all benefits have to be available to all employees, or at least all those that are living and working in the United States. And one of the reasons that we went to CFR, well, the first one is we don't do that. They do every day. They are the ones who help those who are in need, help get that need and know how to go through the process of vetting individuals who are applying. But the second reason is what they award and even who they meet with is entirely confidential. The employer does not know. All they know is they have met with this many people and have helped with this many rental payments and this many utility payments, etc. But that gives employees a lot of comfort, and frankly, it gives the employers a lot of comfort because they know it's not their place necessarily to have that kind of information about their employees.
Excellent. Just want to encourage other people to put any of your questions into the chat box. I will throw one other question out to Kat and Sherry and Barbara. I know you mentioned earlier about the collaboration efforts and those calls you were making with other organizations. Can you expand a little bit more about that and why that has been important?
Who wants that one, or you want me to take it? So Kat's saying I should take
Phone more than anybody, Sherry.
I tell you, Zoom is making a mint out of all of this. What we're finding is, first of all, people are learning about organizations they didn't even know existed. I'm going to tell you one that has just blown me away is an organization called Reflections of Trinity. Reflections of Trinity is in Austell, and they started off as a thrift shop. And the thrift shop is what funds all of their operations. But one of the operations that it funds is their food pantry. And their food pantry, I wish I could remember the number off the top of my head that it serves, but let me put it this way. They had 600 cars in line last Saturday, and the Atlanta Community Food Bank knew of their volume, and so they reached out and offered to bring in National Guardsmen. And so there are going to be 14 members of the National Guard there tomorrow morning to assist with food distribution. I had never heard of Reflections of Trinity before, nor had many of the other people that I am working with, but they're doing amazing work. The other thing that we're seeing happen is, like I said, somebody says, I ran out of food. Literally, there have been times when these folks have cars and cars in line and they run out of food, and they pick up the phone and somebody from another organization brings the food. We had one organization say, we have 100 pounds of onions. What do you do with 100 pounds of onions? Well, you give them away. And these are just the little things. But even things like the 600 site mobile home park called the Village at Six Flags. We had one organization who was able to serve that the first week. A different organization served it the next week. We discovered another mobile home park that, again, many of the people can't get out. And so a different organization is going to be serving them. The way folks are working together is just, it's incredible to watch.
Well, excellent. I know we're going to be wrapping this up in just a few moments. So if you do have any final questions, feel free to put them in the chat. and I will then wrap those up with Sherry and the team. And Sherry, just some final thoughts on the top things that donors and fund holders and supporters can do, not only to help the community, but also to continue to support the Cobb Community Foundation's efforts.
Thank you, Cheryl. I would say the absolute most important thing you can do beyond anything else has nothing to do with money. What it has to do with is helping people to understand that people are in need, sharing that word. Because some of us, including myself, live in areas that we don't see that need. And so we don't even know that it exists. Yet others, it stares them in the face every day. And those that it stares in the face every day, they desperately need our help. And so that is the second thing. That is organize a food drive and take all the food collected to a Must or Collections of Trinity or a Sweetwater Mission. Do something kind for someone. One of the things that we hear, particularly on the calls with the schools, their greatest concern is mental health. And I tell you what, I think back to when my kids were little, if I had to be in the house 24 hours a day, every day, and trying to do my job and trying to help them do their schoolwork, I would definitely need a lot of help in the mental health arena. I can't imagine how parents are handling this right now. So just know that's coming. A lot of issues, we're concerned that there's going to be a lot of issues coming down the pike from that. I see Tyler Driver is on the call. I know there's a lot of concern about those who are dealing with addiction, particularly if you're trying to isolate yourself, which we're encouraged to do. That's about the worst thing for someone who is fighting addiction to do, is isolate themselves. They need that peer support around them. And thank heavens for the extension and places like the Zone that can help with that. And Cheryl, I just went down a rabbit trail and totally forgot your original question. I'm sorry. And you're on mute. And you're still on mute.
Yes, I'm back now. I think you've actually covered all the points there, Sherry. I think that, and lastly is just, things specifically for fund holders and how they can continue to help support the community in any other ways.
So like I said, share the word, be kind to each other, and stay informed. Stay informed about what the greatest needs are, and we're happy to help you with that. And you have already set aside dollars in your donor advised fund, whether that donor advised fund is with Cobb Community Foundation or it's with Fidelity or Schwab or any other organization. You've set aside charitable dollars. Now is really the time to use those charitable dollars. Your community needs help. And the truth of the matter is that many people who don't have those dollars set aside but have to go to charity, they're nervous and they aren't necessarily inclined to give significant amounts when they're worried about their own livelihoods and their own future. So really, those of you with your own funds, you are in a phenomenal position to use those dollars that you've already intended to set aside charitably to make an impact. And like I said, whether your fund is here or elsewhere, we're happy to help you figure out how best to deploy those in Cobb County. And if you're not quite sure where you want to deploy them, but you just want to make sure they're put to good use, that's what the COVID-19 fund is for. And we would love to help you.
Well, excellent, Sherry, Barbara, and Kat. Thank you so much. I don't see any other questions for this Friday wind down, so I'm going to go ahead and close it out and thank everybody for joining today. And we look forward to all the feedback and how we can continue to help communicate what's going on with the Cobb Community Foundation and how fund holders are making a difference. So with that being said, have an amazing weekend.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Thank you for
you.
joining. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye.